Meet Alex and Mark. They are both 32 years old, they live in the same city, and they both earn $80,000 a year. After years of disciplined choices, canceled subscriptions, and eating cheap supermarket cereal, they have each saved $80,000. Financially, they are completely identical. But personality-wise, they are not even close. Alex is a master of flexibility and quiet wealth. He likes keeping his options open, knowing he can pivot whenever the world changes. Committing to one address for 30 years makes him uneasy. Mark, on the other hand, craves stability. He wants a place that feels permanently his, a garage for tools, and a lawn to protect. These two very different philosophies eventually lead them to two completely opposite financial decisions. Mark buys a home. Alex keeps renting. For the next 20 years, we are going to follow them both through every single mortgage payment, rent increase, and repair bill. We will track every dollar Alex saves by renting and actually invests, and see where these two identical paths ultimately lead. Let us look at the purchase first. Mark finds a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a small yard. The home costs $350,000. Mark puts $70,000 down, exactly 20%. But the down payment is not the only cash he needs to close the deal. There are closing costs, lender fees, title fees, inspections, and prepaid taxes that quickly add up in the background. On a $350,000 home, closing costs easily run around $10,000 of unrecoverable fees. So before he even gets the keys, Mark has already put his entire $80,000 of savings into buying the house. He takes out a $300,000 30-year fixed mortgage at 7% interest. His monthly principal and interest is $1,863. But owning a home comes with several other mandatory monthly expenses that most buyers completely leave out of their math. He pays $350 in property taxes, $150 in insurance, and sets aside $290 for maintenance. That brings Mark's initial monthly housing cost to an eye-watering $2,653. Meanwhile, Alex's monthly math looks completely different. He rents an identical 3-bedroom home nearby for exactly $2,000 a month. He has no property taxes, no homeowner's insurance, and if the water heater breaks, it is his landlord's problem, not his. This leaves Alex with a massive monthly surplus of $653 compared to Mark's homeownership costs. Now, a lot of people would take that extra cash and spend it on luxury travel or eating out. But Alex is highly disciplined. He decides to invest every single penny he saves by renting. He takes his original $80,000 and puts it in an index fund. And from that point on, the $653 he saves each month goes straight into that same investment account on autopilot. At first glance, Alex's decision looks incredible. He lives in a similar house, pays less, and has his money compounding in the market. But this is usually where the average homebuyer speaks up. Yeah, but Alex is just throwing away $2,000 a month on rent. They argue that Mark's mortgage payment is building equity, which acts as a forced wealth builder. And technically, that is true, but there is a painful, hidden mathematical reality here. Especially in the early years, a mortgage builds equity slowly. In his very first month, Mark pays $1,633 in interest, $350 in taxes, and $150 in insurance. Add the $290 for maintenance, and out of Mark's $2,600 payment, only $230 builds equity. The other $2,423 is simply the unrecoverable cost of owning that physical structure. Calling rent throwing money away while pretending interest, taxes, insurance, and repairs are investments is creative accounting. Now, let us fast forward 3 years. Mark has made 36 mortgage payments and learned his first hard lesson of homeownership. When you own the brick, every strange noise in the middle of the night has direct financial consequences. One Saturday morning, his water heater stops working. He watches a video online titled "Easy Water Heater Fix." Anyone can do this. 4 hours and a flooded garage later, he calls a professional who actually can. The bill costs him several $100s. Fortunately, that is exactly why Mark has been budgeting for maintenance. His mortgage balance has fallen to $270,000. He has paid down about $9,000 of principal. Assuming his home appreciated at over 3% annually, it is worth $384,000. This leaves Mark with roughly $112,000 in home equity. That is real, tangible wealth. Meanwhile, Alex has paid $72,000 in rent over those 3 years, but his original $80,000 remained heavily invested. At a 10% average annual return, that initial $80,000 alone has grown to roughly $106,000. Add his monthly $653 investments and their growth, and Alex's portfolio is worth $130,000. So after 3 years, the financial results are surprisingly close. Mark has substantial home equity. Alex has a massive investment portfolio. Mark can paint his walls whatever color he wants. Alex can pack up and move to a new city next week on a whim. But as the years roll on, the costs on both sides of this equation begin to shift significantly. Mark's principal and interest payment remains fixed at $1,863, but his other costs do not stay still. As his property value rises, his property taxes climb with it. Home insurance premiums get more expensive every single year. And as the physical structure gets older, the repair bills start to become far more ambitious and frequent. Meanwhile, Alex has a growing expense of his own: rent. He started out paying $2,000 a month, but every year his rent creeps a little higher. $2,000 becomes $2,600, then $2,700, then even more. His landlord is clearly a big believer in compounding growth. And with rent increasing at 3% annually, Alex's initial advantage shrinks. This is where time starts working in Mark's favor. His mortgage principal stays fixed while Alex's rent continues to climb. But Alex still has one massive advantage that most people fail to fully account for: the compound interest of his liquid investments. His original $80,000 has been compounding in the stock market this entire time. And that brings us to opportunity cost. At a 10% annual return, that money has the potential to grow exponentially over the next 2 decades on autopilot. That does not mean Mark is losing. His money went into a home that was also appreciating and building real equity. But Mark's $80,000 had an alternative use, and any honest mathematical comparison has to count that lost opportunity. Let us jump to year 10. Alex and Mark are now 42 years old. Mark's home is worth roughly $470,000. After 10 years of payments, his remaining loan balance is $240,000. He has $230,000 in equity. He walks around his property with the quiet confidence of a man who owns about half of every brick. Over the decade, he has spent thousands maintaining the home. Some improved it, some just stopped it from returning to nature. Alex, meanwhile, has kept investing consistently. At a 10% average return, his original $80,000 is worth $207,000. And throughout those 10 years, he continued investing the difference, even as it gradually shrank from rent increases. Add those monthly contributions and their growth, and Alex's liquid investment portfolio is now worth roughly $290,000. So after 10 years, Alex is still ahead in pure liquid financial assets. but his monthly rent has now approached $2,700. Mark's mortgage principal and interest remains fixed at $1,863. Now, let us fast forward to year 20. They are both 52 years old. Mark's home, appreciating steadily, is now worth roughly $700,000. His mortgage balance has fallen to about $160,000, leaving him with $540,000 in equity. Alex's investment portfolio has also been compounding for 20 years. That original $80,000 alone is worth $538,000. Add his monthly contributions and their compound growth, and Alex's total portfolio is worth an outstanding $750,000. So after 2 decades, on pure net worth, Alex has come out significantly ahead. But their wealth looks completely different. Alex's wealth is highly liquid and incredibly easy to access. Mark cannot sell off 8% of his kitchen to buy groceries. But Alex still has one cost that will never disappear: rent. His rent is now roughly $3,600 a month. Mark has only 10 years left until his mortgage is completely paid off. Alex's rent has absolutely no finish line. But Alex's victory comes with one extremely critical condition. He actually had to invest the difference every single month. When the market crashed, he had to invest. When the news announced the end of capitalism, he had to invest. Human beings often have other plans. The money meant for investments easily becomes a nicer car, a holiday, or a lifestyle upgrade. A mortgage, on the other hand, acts as a forced savings account. The bank decides you are building equity, which behaviorally matters. Ultimately, personal finance is not about finding one perfect strategy. It is about understanding the real, unrecoverable costs of both sides. Mark traded liquidity and mobility for stability. Alex traded housing certainty for flexibility, liquidity, and compound market growth. Keep your system simple, focus on the real math, and let your cash flow compound in the dark. I will see you in the next video.